And that breaking news tonight at 11 o'clock, tragedy tonight involving two first responders in central Indiana. We now know that both people killed when two planes collided in Marion are volunteer firefighters in Madison County. And just within the past half hour, we're told tonight the Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board both got there to the scene. We have team coverage tonight at 11 o'clock with our David McAnally at the fire department in Pipe Creek Township, where they're mourning the loss of two of their own. But first, our Emily Longnecker is in Grant County with what witnesses say they saw leading up to that deadly crash at the airport. Emily?
Well, Andrea, investigators with the FAA and NTSB will be examining the scene, although we know from witnesses and police that it would seem that a smaller plane that was taking off hit the tail of a larger plane that had just landed here. Now, both people on board that smaller plane were both firefighters, and they were killed tonight. We know their names and details of their plans that involved a short flight and being home by 7, something that never happened.
And I was kind of in misbelief.
That's all Randy Lyons could think when he saw the flames on the runway of the Marion Municipal Airport Monday afternoon, moments after two planes collided.
I cannot believe I just witnessed two planes run into each other like that.
Just seconds earlier, Lyons was driving by the airport when he noticed a large plane landing and a smaller one taking off.
It was almost like he had pulled out into the larger runway a little bit too far, and then when the bigger plane landed, his wing clipped it, and it just kind of flipped over and bursted into flames.
According to the Grant County coroner, two men inside the smaller plane, a Cessna 150, were killed. The pilot, 31-year-old Kyle Hipps from Elwood, and his passenger, 31-year-old David Whitcamper, also from Elwood. According to Marion police, the bigger plane, a Cessna 525 Citation jet, was carrying 5 people. No one on that plane was hurt. There's no air traffic control tower at the airport, and pilots are expected to communicate with each other about landings and takeoffs over a common radio frequency. According to an airport official, the Cessna did that, but took off too soon.
There was not enough rise for the Cessna. It clipped the tail end of the Learjet.
The coroner says a cell phone was recovered in the wreckage. On it were text messages between Hipps and Whitcamper. Just hours earlier, Hipps had asked Whitcamper if he wanted to go flying, with Whitcamper asking what time they'd be home. Hipps told him it would be a short flight, and they'd be home by 7. Sadly, they never made it. Now, the bodies of both men have been taken to an area hospital while federal investigators begin their work here. Andrea?
Emily, thank you. And as you can imagine, the news of exactly what happened has a local fire department now in mourning. Both men served in Pipe Creek Township, one of them for the past 7 years and the other for 11 years. Our David McAnally is now live in Madison County, where their fellow firefighters are now tonight coming together to support one another through this terrible loss. David.
As you can imagine, the mood is very somber here tonight. Outside the Pipe Creek Volunteer Fire Department, just to the east side of Elwood, you can see here outside the fire station, the lit flag tonight is already at half-mast, remembering two of their own lost today, and we have pictures of those. They're Kyle Hipps, he has been a member of the department since 2011, and David Whitcamper, a member since 2007. We talked to the PIO, Public Information Person, for the Madison County Emergency Management, who filled us in on what was going on here at the fire station tonight. And also we asked him about these men that they've lost.
The pilot was a member of this department and oftentimes would take other members up just to get his airtime in, but enjoyed that time of being in the sky and flying, and would share that with other members of this department, and call them up and say, hey buddy, I'm going to go fly today, would you go with me? So
a lot of these folks in here have flown with him before.
Yes. Yeah, it was not uncommon for the firefighter to reach out and call one of his comrades and say, hey, it's a beautiful sunny day, let's go fly.
That must have made it all the more harder for these guys then.
Sure.
There are 30 members of this volunteer department, very tight-knit, and it looked as though all of them were here for a debriefing meeting with their chief, with folks who will help them deal with their grief in these days going forward as they cope with the loss of two of their own. We'll have more, of course, on Sunrise. Back to you, Andrea.
All right, David, thanks so much. And, of course, we'll continue to watch this story for you. We'll have another live report coming up in a few minutes here on the Night Beat. But until then, head over to our website at WTHR.com for more information on this ongoing investigation, as well as the two firefighters who, again, tonight lost their lives. We'll, of course, continue to pray for those families.